should list. So I rise briefly to talk against Clause 61. This is well-meaning, but I'm afraid it's a blunt instrument full of unintended consequences. Now, I do not deny that to require a guarantor for most tenancies is disproportionate and unnecessary, and the bill makes welcome provisions to regularise what has become standard practice for the most part. Anyway, but I do want to alert your Lordship's House to some perverse consequences for three particular types of potential tenant, who among which are the quietest voices. There's the foreign student, the groups of students, as well as those with impaired reputation or difficult personal circumstances. Because guarantees make the unrentable rentable in some cases. It makes opportunities exist where refusal would otherwise be the only opportunity. Let's just dwell for a moment on the case of the foreign students. Now, the foreign students, they've come from away. They have no reputation, there is no covenant strength, they may not have even arrived in the United Kingdom yet. They certainly don't have a UK bank account at this point, and they probably don't have a UK mobile phone either. The only way in which they can secure, in many cases, a property for them to live in before they arrive is to have the sight of a guarantor. The guarantor allows them to have a roof over their head. And we've got the groups of students, and I refer really to the case of my daughter when she went off to Newcastle. There were 7 people, 7 students, they were friends. None of them really knew each other that well. They certainly weren't related to each other. There were no family bounds to tie them. And of course, this bill contemplates that the tenant is a single tenant. Now, it's quite reasonable for a landlord renting to student homes, if they can't have payment in advance, and I won't go on that, we discussed that in day 1 of committee, but to require some sort of guarantor so that the downside risks can be compensated. And without those guarantors, the students, and not all of them want to live in expensive halls of residence. They are disadvantaged at an early part of their life. But I'm really thinking, if I may, about those with the impaired reputation. People who may have left prison, people suffering from domestic abuse or family breakdown. And I have been a guarantor for hundreds of this sort of family in this situation. But the government seeks to make my well-meaning interventions unlawful. So let me explain. Sitting in your Lordship's House at the moment, I see the noble Baroness, the Minister, Lord Jameson, and myself, all of whom have been leaders of councils. And we know that councils have to step in certain circumstances to avoid homelessness. We know there aren't enough registered social landlords. And we know that the private sector landlords are our friends. They're part of the solution, not the problem. But we can't expect the private sector landlord to be the only one who takes a chance to get that person who may have fallen homelessness with a roof over their head. So, in common with many other councils, my council, and I'm proud that we really pushed this hard, had rental guarantees. We stood guarantor for for somebody in difficult circumstances, so that the private sector landlord, who was prepared to take a chance with us, could do so. This is an essential part of managing a housing market. It's all about supporting the most vulnerable. It works, it's a success, it's something that all, and if you've been a council leader, and I'm sorry I failed to identify the noble Baroness Scott, who's also been a council leader in this circumstance as well. This is about helping families get back on their feet. So I ask noble lords, when you consider section 61, Amendment 61, in what universe can this misdirected and misguided and counterproductive amendment help those with the quietest voices get a roof over their head? Providing a guarantor is the way in which the unrentable can be rented, and there's nothing fair about keeping people in bed and breakfast if they could, via a guarantor, get housed. I cannot support this amendment.